Hell in the Land of the Morning Calm, Chapter 13. The Little Fisherman. From the very day that Packy found Christ as his Savior, he was a different person. The other children knew it at once. Upon seeing Packy the first time after his conversion, one of the other houseboys, Kim, said, "Packy, what has happened to you? You are smiling. You look so happy." Packy beamed broadly, pulled his shoulders back, and with a great deal of pride said, pointing to his chest, "Packy Christian now. Packy has Jesus inside." Little Kim looked at Packy intently for a few minutes before he spoke again. "What you mean you got Jesus inside you?" asked Kim. "I mean I have Jesus's peace and joy inside me," Packy answered. With a questioning look on his face, little Kim asked, "How you get Jesus inside you, Packy?" Turning slowly and looking at me, Packy answered Kim, "You come with me. Plemmons show you how." I took little Kim aside and led him to Jesus, using my Bible to show how he could know he was saved. Packy took in every word. Later on in the day, he showed up with the New Testament. Although he could not read, he kept the New Testament with him at all times. Slowly, with the help of our Korean kitchen help, he learned the verses necessary to lead a soul to Christ and to prove his stand as a Christian. This is something many Christians fall short on. I know many who have been Christians for years and yet cannot lead a soul to Christ from the Bible. Packy studied hard to learn how to be a better witness for Christ. Packy witnessed some of the great miracles that had happened in my life, such as the patrol I led in which all the men in the patrol were killed except me. How it humbled me when little Packy would look at me and say, "God has special work for you. You must always walk close to him. He has chosen you." These, of course, are my words, not the exact way Packy said them. You would have a hard time knowing what he meant if I used his exact words. Although Packy had found a completely new life, many times at night I would hear the moans and the sound of sobbing when in his dreams he relived the brutal slaying of his family and the months of stealing and hiding and trying to stay alive. I would reach over and touch him and whisper to him, "It's all right, Packy." Many nights he would become restless, and I would feel his little hand reach over and touch me to make sure I was there. When he knew I was there, everything was all right. There is no substitute for love and a little kind attention. Just a smile or a little friendly pat on the head seemed to mean so much to him because he knew that I meant it. He knew that I really cared for him. Packy won to Christ almost all the boys who were around, but he didn't stop with the boys. He led many South Korean soldiers to Christ as well as American soldiers, and American soldiers that I had never been able to reach. As time went on, Packy came to realize that there were many of his countrymen who called themselves Christians who were not Christians at all. They had joined the church but had never had a personal experience of salvation. Packy spent many hours telling little Korean children who were members but were not converted that they could have assurance of salvation, that they could know for sure that they were ready to meet God. Packy knew in his heart that Christ was with him, and I saw the change take place in him. He would get very nervous when he would hear the big guns firing. He would shake and stay as close to me as he could. Although he didn't say anything about it, you could see the fear in his face and eyes. After he was converted, I saw him when he was afraid, of course, but there was something there that he didn't have before. Many times he said to me, "Plemmons, The communists cannot kill me anymore. They can only send me to heaven. He had a sense of security about him that was contagious. It affected the other little Korean boys and even some of the soldiers who seemed to draw confidence and strength from, quote, the little fisherman who knew his standing with God. One of the greatest signs of real Christianity was displayed one day when this little fellow said, "Plimson, I no feel hate in my heart to those who killed my mother and father and brothers. They are sick." And he pointed to his little head. They need Jesus. I found myself feeling ashamed of my own attitude at times when the communists would butcher some of our men in a brutal way. I would find myself tempted to kill enemy soldiers when I'd captured them. By God's grace, I never did kill any that I knew we could take alive, but I'm afraid it was in my heart to do so at times. So Packy, whom I had led to the Lord, was being an example to me. Packy never considered witnessing a task. He really enjoyed telling people about the Lord, about the golden city where his mother and family were, and whom he would join someday. He told all of them that they could go too if they would give their hearts to Jesus. I remember watching in amazement as he would make the picture of heaven so real to the other little Korean boys that their eyes would just dance. He could make it real because it was real to him. One of the events that stands out in my mind was the day that Packy was witnessing to a little Korean boy who was somewhat skeptical. After Packy had talked for some time, the little boy said, "Packy, why did God let the communists kill your family?" I was amazed at the wisdom of the little fisherman. Smiling broadly, Packy answered the boy, "God chose to give my family a special place in his family. He let them pay a special price, like his own son, Jesus. They will have a special reward. This may not be theologically correct in every detail, but Packy's family will have the martyr's crown." Packy finally led this boy to Christ through the example of the life he led before him. End of chapter 13.